playing video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by two very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and with me, as always,
Ben Vanel here, and we have some breaking news hot off the presses. This is a huge exclusive. The Nintendo Switch 2 has finally been revealed 6.5 days ago. That's right. Breaking news here on the pod. Joining us to react live to this incredible, stunning and shock announcement, it is Andrew Levins, DJ Levins, Lev Dog himself. How are you going, my friend?
Oh man, it's good to be back. Last time I did Filthy Casuals was when Uncharted 4 came out.
Wow.
Let's fill in the gaps. What have you been playing between now and then?
Not much.
I thought you were going to say, Ben, that the breaking news was that a plane was flying overhead Levins's house, because that's a hell of a microphone you got. We were able to hear everything coming out of the engines of that plane that just flew overhead. That's good equipment, brother.
I should have used the Zoom H6 instead. I was like, I'll use this Rode. This is the tech review at the top of the show.
Sure.
Yeah,
we love
Fashion
talking
report's
about
over. It's microphone report.
No, it's perfect, because we famously on the show, anytime we're about to talk about a big revealing of some form of Nintendo Switch, we instead talk about a plane that we've been distracted by.
It's true.
It's actually really keeping it on brand for
That
us.
is canonically, absolutely, yes. We went to the Switch 1 launch event in Melbourne. There was a helicopter nearby. We were completely besotted by it. They've announced some, I think, hands-on events for the Switch 2 as well.
Yeah. Well, so we said last week that it seemed like the announcement was maybe imminent, and we said that if that happened, we would hop on the mic very quickly and do a reaction episode, a mini reaction episode, maybe on the Friday. And then, of course, midnight that night, trailer went up. The trailer was so vague that we deemed it not really worth getting the equipment out for a specific one-off little thing. We figured we could wait. We could wait 6 days.
That's right.
You've been kind of like teeing me up for weeks, just like, hey Lev, just be on standby. The moment they request, they announce the Switch 2, I want you in the studio, picking up as many planes as possible for us to react immediately. You
firmly planted your feet in the ground last week and said this will not happen. It is not being announced this week.
I don't think you can blame me. Everyone's arguments that it was going to be announced were based solely upon the industry whispers of someone called Nate the Hate. And everyone's like, I believe Nate the Hate. I don't understand how you gain like traction and support as a Nintendo leaker. Right. And the difference between, for some reason, there's always leaks and there's always rumors that are very much taken with a grain of salt. But then every now and then there'll be one like that where like everyone gets behind it and is like, no, this is legitimate. This is actually really happening. But it was weird because I think people assumed that they would at the very least go, hey, tomorrow at this time, we're going to reveal the new console. But what it actually was I think it was like midnight or something. Just trailer, just dropped online. Just randomly appearing. No fanfare to it. Just a 2-minute trailer. No rooftop party.
No rooftop party. Yeah, really like...
No dogs got walked in this announcement.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
All these things that we came to expect from Switch announcements.
Yeah, no one playing basketball and then putting the basketball game on pause to play basketball on the Switch next to the basketball court.
Which is the most applicable one to all of our lives. It was not underwhelming, because it's silly to get like to hang your personal joy on a trailer for a console, but it was
guilty.
It was just very simple. It was like a CG render of the console. It was like, I think it was well done, because they show the original Switch, and then it's like bumping up in size, the Joy-Con are changing.
That was the strangest bit about it, was that it's basically the trailer is like the original Switch going through like a Nutty Professor thing where he's like like getting yassified and like blowing up. Like,
Yes.
Makeover.
It kind of, it's very, I will say it's very unlike them in how it's made. Like, just as we're saying, like just it being very clinical and a render of like, here's what's different, here's what here's how the joysticks kind of move and everything. It doesn't have that flair that we're kind of used to seeing of like, you do expect a little bit of like seeing some people using it, or it didn't really have a lot of fun to it, even though it did have like kind of sound effects and music and stuff.
The big oh shit moment in the trailer is that it's magnetic now.
Yeah. Which, again, is stuff that I feel like we've known for, and obviously we're more tapped in than the average person, but...
Right.
You've got Nate the Hate on speed dial.
Yeah, I assume you were pretty tapped in as well, Levins, with, like, the features, even that, like, the MagSafe Joy-Con connection thing was leaked, I feel like, weeks ago.
I'm only tapped in because of Tommy. I feel like about 50% of our friendship these last 6 months is him texting me at 2 a.m. being like, fuck me dead, can Nintendo just announce this cunt already?
Yeah, I have nothing else going on. I'm pinning all my hopes and dreams on this thing. But yeah, I mean, it's funny to really lean into that in the trailer, because the magnetic Joy-Con thing, I don't know, it's a good practical thing, but in terms of use of the console and practicality of like what you're playing on this thing, it kind of has no application on the games, right? It's just like, it's a little easier to take them on and off. Something that I never do anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't really impact me. I've got the Pro Controller and then I'm playing it in handheld mode, and yeah, that's it. So yeah, we saw there's been a lot of rumored stuff about a possible being able to use the Joy-Con as kind of like a mouse, because on the inside of it, it's got like a little, the little same infrared thing that is on a mouse. And they seem to kind of be hinting at that in this trailer. There's a little bit where they're sort of, the Joy-Con are like flat on the table and they're kind of like
racing
zipping around
towards the console.
Yeah.
Which could be cool. I mean, this kind of stuff does reek of like a bit of a HD Rumble 1-2 switch kind of scenario, where there'll be like one thing at launch that uses this stuff and then never gets applied or thought of again.
Do you think we get 1-2 Switch 2, or will they call it everybody 1-2 Switch 2?
Oh yeah.
Or
they've really...
Or is it going to be everybody 1-3 Switch?
Everybody else 1-2 Switch. Oh shit, more people have shown up. Kick-ons. 1-2 Switch kick-ons.
Because that first 1-2 Switch, dog shit as it is, sold so many copies that that's why they greenlit the sequel.
Sure,
but you have to hope that part of Nintendo has learnt its lesson. Like, don't do these like extremely broad but small collections of games that are, barely tech demos.
Yeah, and have none of the kind of Nintendo flavor on them that we like. Just not having Mario or Wario or anything in it. It just being like all these like photos of like real people in the game. It was like so bizarre.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it will have like one or two small little gimmicks that they'll lean on for some reason, because they also kind of can't win. Like, there's been obviously a lot of talk about this online since it launched, and there are a lot of people being like, oh, this is pretty dull. It's just the Switch, but it's like a bit bigger and more powerful. Like, man, these people used to be innovators and they used to do crazy stuff. But then when they do crazy stuff, people don't buy it or care, or you know what I mean? Like, whatever they do, like they're kind of in the wrong position.
It feels like the last big successful crazy thing they did was the Wii, and it's like, how do you fucking, capture that lightning in a bottle again? Like,
yeah.
Motion controls are part of almost everything now, if not like gyro controls, all that stuff. I was clamoring for most of the Switch's life cycle for Wii Sports, like Switch. And we got Nintendo Switch Sports, and it was fine. it was like, I don't know if you played a lot of it, Levins. It is like more of a like family appropriate game.
Yeah, but it was charmless. I found it very like generic and it felt more like a Kinect game than it did a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it felt like one of those follow-on... Yeah, it felt like it had been influenced by Wii Sports rather than it being like, here's the next iteration.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so yeah, what are the other big things? Bigger screen, magnetic Joy-Con, just, everything a little bit bigger. This trailer does not go into any technical specifications. There's like a 30-second shot of just the joystick kind of doing a 360. And I'm sitting there watching it going like, I think I get it. I'm just waiting for like, please don't tell me this is all this trailer's going to be. And then we get and then it kind of cuts, and then it sort of cuts back, and you think, oh, well, here we go. Now we're going to get a bit of like a, software sort of influx kind of thing. And we see, maybe 8 seconds of a new Mario Kart that is, again, very vague as to what's going on in it. And that is it.
And you better believe there have been hundreds of YouTubers that have broken down every split second of those 8 seconds to kind of find anything to nibble on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, as you say, Ben, it's kind of, nice to have the actual reveal of what it looks like and everything out there, and have some firm information for when we'll find out. So they said there's a proper Switch 2 Direct on April the 2nd, I think it is, where that'll be the big deep dive. And then after that, for a couple of months, there's the big like hands-on events that they're doing all over the world. But no information in this trailer about price, launch date, even like specs. And I don't know, another one or two little morsels would have been great. I would have loved to see just like a really rapid fire couple more little bits of software, just one or two more little tastes would have been great.
I feel like this was just a shut the fuck up proof of concept video that they just put out so people would stop speculating.
Totally.
I definitely had a moment where at the end of that thing it was like, oh, that's okay, at least we'll find out more on the 4th of February.
Me too.
And then I was like, oh no, it's written in American style.
Me too.
You have to wait all the way until April.
I mean, that just seems like because again, a lot of the rumours were announced at the start of the year. They'll probably want to replicate the March launch of Switch 1 because everything about the Switch 1 was so successful for them. So it would make sense to try and just replicate that at every step. And so, you go, oh, well, okay, they're revealing it all in April. And so that means what's the earliest it could come out after that? Like July, maybe? 3 months is probably the minimum lead time you'd want to give yourself, which, it seems...
Just enough time to finish the re-release of Xenoblade Chronicles X coming to Switch in March.
Yes.
And so in this Mario Kart little glimpse, again, they've shown... It's a very vague little 8-second thing of a bunch of characters just kind of driving around this track that sort of looks to be sort of in the desert. It's two things that people latched onto, the two main things... it looks to be based on the starting grid that this will have 24 races on the one track, which, I don't know, fine. I'm not really too fussed about the number of people that can be racing at the one time in Mario Kart. The first two are great with just 8 people. Doesn't really make a huge difference. But then, this is the thing I find so fascinating to just throw in there with no other context, is that they've kind of redesigned Donkey Kong and made him look really different, which is just they didn't have to have him to just kind of have that out there and know that people are going to notice and speculate and just have nothing to say about it is I don't know, it's kind of funny.
That rules, I reckon.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Here's this weird thing we did. We're not going to provide any explanation.
Yeah.
Just look forward to finding out more.
On the exact same day that they've just brought out Donkey Kong Country Returns HD on the Switch, then they're immediately kind of hinting at well, this game is now sort of obsolete because we've moved on and now he looks different.
And so is the theme park that we just opened in Japan and still haven't opened in America.
Yeah.
I think it's Donkey Kong Jr.
I think there's some explanation for... it's some weird, alt version. I don't think it's...
My Hey Fam co-host Angus Truscott yesterday pointed out that that's who you play as when you select Donkey Kong in the first first Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Jr. So I reckon they love doing weird callbacks to early entries.
Yeah. I would love that. I mean, I've always thought it's a shame that they because God. I'm really doing the meme of the guy like yelling in the girl's ear at the nightclub now.
Isn't that what this podcast is?
well,
All
yeah,
podcasts
Yes.
We
Canonically-
podcast so we don't have to yell in women's ears.
Yeah.
Lauren's
My
literally
marriage
asleep.
only survives because of podcasts.
Lauren's literally asleep in the next room with earplugs in at the moment.
Beautiful.
And yet
Canonically,
she can still hear the plane that went over my house 10 minutes ago.
canonically, Donkey Kong Jr. is the Donkey Kong that is in Donkey Kong Country.
Oh shit,
And
you're right.
and Cranky Kong is the Donkey Kong from the like original arcade Donkey Kong. But
Right.
yeah, I could see it being some new Kong guy.
It's
that
Kitty
they've put
Kong,
in
he's
there.
back.
Yeah.
Like
It is-
Lanky's back.
People are pointing out, and like I think it's kind of close-ish. It's reminiscent of the Super Mario Brothers movie design of Donkey Kong.
Yeah, there's
It's
been
not
some,
like one-to-one,
because it also looks
yeah.
more like how they used to sort of have him like illustrated before Rare did the redesign of him.
totally.
And if you look up a lot of the merch and stuff that they have at the theme park, they've got like this kind of 2D illustrated version of him, and it's a bit more in line with that as well. That
Right.
kind of design of him is a little less kind of, because the model that Rare have of him, he looks like one mean motherfucker. So I can't, I kind of like that they're trying to, there's something. Maybe it is just a thing of like, if we're really leaning into this character, we need to make him maybe look a little more goofy, a little more
Right.
like a little more approachable and silly. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have to maybe keep it on eBay, because you might be able to buy that big suit costume from the theme park. If they're really going all out with this redesign, you might be able to get that for cheap.
So long as I can, just as long as I can race to Take On Me by Aha.
Oh
Just
yeah,
like in the movie.
oh yeah,
That'll
yeah.
Imagine that's the startup music.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, if they want to redesign him to look like, if it is to be more in line with the movie, I'm fine with that. But that's where the crossovers with the movie have to stop.
Seth Rogen voice
the
acting.
Yeah. Get right in.
yeah. Oh boy.
Wahoo! Now, Levins, your kids are a bit old for this to be a concern now, but I saw people pointing out like the that sort of attachment of the Joy-Con on the Switch could lead to like a little bit of snapping off of the connector. A little. Did you find that design was like potentially like a kid unfriendly design?
Yeah, I think it looks worse than it actually will be. I think once you actually see it, because you can see like the connection, this tiny connection kind of sticks out, but it's still kind of covered overall.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure some dumbass kid will break theirs, but not my dumbass kids. It's fine.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
we still
dumbass
use
kids.
our launch. We still use our launch switch as the main
Right.
switch in
Yeah,
the
right.
house.
I mean, dumbass kids were fucking around with the first one anyway. Like, remember the first time you
Sure.
tried to take the Joy-Con out and put the like wrist strap thing on, and it was kind of before it sort of like loosens up a bit. It was like really, oh, am I gonna? Even just putting it in the dock, I remember, or sliding it out of the dock, I remember being like, oh, is this gonna like scratch up the screen? This feels kind of weird.
But yeah, it's crazy comparing this video to the Switch announcement video, because if we go all the way back to, did that come out at the beginning of 2017 or the end of 2016? Doesn't matter.
It was the video was end of 16. They kind of
Yeah.
did the same thing. They had that like people playing it on the plane, but they didn't really go in depth of like the software or anything like that. And then they had that big event in like, I think maybe Jan or Feb or something, where they kind of properly showed off what.
Because I remember being so hot on the Switch after that first, the equivalent of this trailer reveal.
Yeah.
We got our first look at Mario Odyssey, and like the tech, it was exactly what I wanted. It was like, I was so excited because suddenly their teams wouldn't be split up doing handheld or home console. It was like, this is going to be the one console now. This is perfect. All the games they showed and the way they showed off the Switch was really well done. But then I remember, when we finally got that live presentation, it being like just like classic goofy dorky Nintendo. I remember the Splatoon guy dabbed in his presentation.
That's like the main thing. I remember exactly the same response, feeling just really deflated. It was just like a
Arms
lot
was
of
announced. Like there were just all these things. I was like, oh
Yeah,
no,
that's
this is
right.
not what I want.
They didn't talk about Mario, I remember, because we didn't really get a look at Odyssey until E3 was when they had that trailer
Right.
of like, here is what this new Mario game is, and you use your little hat
The
to
dinosaur
possess
reveal,
people.
the best.
Yeah, and so at that point being like, oh cool, but I just remember thinking like, why aren't they showing any of like, or maybe they showed like a tiny little bit more of it, but they had him running around New Donk City, but it was just, yeah, you're right, classic them focusing on the wrong stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
Was it still Iwata who was presenting, or I forget who like the CEO was at the time, but that's when they introduced the like clicking the fingers for the Switch, and it was all a bit stilted and a little bit.
Well, and
uncool.
also they were coming off the back of a colossal, a big flop of a console, so it was kind of hard to. It really did feel like, man, if this doesn't fly, they really might be in. They really might be fucked here. These guys may not know what they're doing ever again.
I know, totally right. Like, but yeah, I mean, we our friendship, was very strong during those years because of how hard it was to be a Nintendo fan.
I know. Yeah.
Texting each other about, did you get this amiibo this year?
Yeah, amiibo they've kind of given up on. I'll be interested to see whether that's whether they're doing anything with them.
I guess
going
they're
forward.
they're for the collectors now, right? Like because some of them are still like limited.
Sure, but I mean they
runs,
don't even really bring out new ones anymore. I guess there hasn't really been too many like massive games that they could like tether a series of them to. But yeah, there was a period there where like any new game that came out was like, oh, and there'll be a little 3-pack of Mario in his wedding costume or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I
they
bought all of them.
Yeah, like the recent Zelda game probably would have lent itself to a little Zelda in that style one, but yeah. So yeah, I like it. It was cool to finally see all this stuff confirmed and get a little look at Mario Kart. But yeah, I mean, 4 months is a long time to wait for just even a morsel of other info would have been great.
Yeah,
this tantalising look at Mario Kart, which I do think is like. I do think that there's probably something going on with that game that is like bigger than just, hey, here's a new Mario Kart with 24 more tracks. Like I think the fact of them kind of holding all this stuff back maybe speaks to, and I mean Mario Kart 8 came out
12 years ago.
12 years ago. And they've obviously done a bit of stuff here and there in between. I think it's the same team made ARMS, but even that, like, they've had a long fucking time to work on this game. And Mario Kart 8 having so many tracks in it now and being backwards compatible, it's kind of like, well, they can't just, put some old tracks in there, make some... It does seem like it's a kind of a point where they've got to do, something a bit extra to kind of take it over the line.
I've heard, and again, this speculation is it's based on such little information.
What has Make the Hate told you now, man?
I think I've seen, because graphically it looks fine, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look leaps and bounds ahead of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch, and the expanded roster, at least, within races. People are speculating maybe it's an open world Mario Kart, in a sort of, was it Project Gotham? Like, I guess Forza Horizon.
A Forza Mario Kart would be so sick.
I got that vibe from it too. Just the setting of this, where this track is, it's very like, almost like kind of, it's like this rundown desert bit that's got like an abandoned diner. It's very, it's kind of like an almost like Mad Maxy kind of scenario.
Right.
So like, it would track that this is like something that is like on the outskirt, like on the very fringe of like the edge of the map where you kind of like get out of the developed bit of it. Like, I mean, yeah, if their first year launch is like a Forza Horizon Mario Kart and like an open world 3D Mario, then my God. Damn, it feels good to be nearly 40.
But I mean, it was cool getting Mario Kart 8 Deluxe like so soon. It wasn't quite a launch game. It came out like 2 or 3 weeks after the Switch came out. But I remember getting it just because I felt like I had to, and then going, oh, everything's already unlocked. I kind of have no reason to play this. I like unlocking the roster in a game, and I totally would have done it again if they hid them all. So I really, really hope that they lean into, like, you know, just like different ways that you can unlock all the content in this new game.
I mean, with that game too, like I think the Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U was like maybe the first time they did DLC. They had that.
Oh man!
Remember they had
best
that
DLC package.
the Mercedes Benz collab.
Yeah, that one, not that one.
I think that was the very first thing that they put in there.
That was baffling.
Yeah, and then they added maybe some tracks, and then over time they still up until
you got 2 DLC packs of, I think it was 4 tracks each, and
that's
they included like the F-Zero
the F-Zero track,
the Zelda one, Animal Crossing, and then a few like totally original ones just in classic Mario style that were bangers. Yeah,
and they've always had like really good unlock characters in those games. I remember on I think it's the DS one, you could unlock ROB, the little robot guy that you could get for the NES. And
DS one also had missions. And I feel like you could incorporate them into an open world game really well.
That would be great.
Oh, totally.
That's a real the real like single player stuff is kind of something that's always been a bit lacking in those games, other than just
I feel like
going for cups.
I feel like surely, like, showing off the fact that that's, you know, on the Switch 2 in that video is them almost confirming that that's going to be the launch game, right?
Yeah. You'd think so.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think that I'm trying to remember when they said that Breath of the Wild would be a launch game, like a cross gen thing. I'm trying to remember when that sort of, but that it felt like that was pretty known, you know, early on. Like, okay, well, this is what you'll get day one if you're getting a Switch. It's like the best way to play this game that we've been, you know, hearing about for 6 years or whatever.
Because the day the Switch came out, I bought the Switch. I bought a Pro, like a Pro. What's it called? Joy-Con Pro.
Oh yeah, Pro Controller.
Pro Controller, that's the one. And then I got, I think I got an extra set of Joy-Cons. I got a case for the Switch, and then I got Breath of the Wild Deluxe Edition, and then all of the Zelda amiibo. Like, it was
hell
such
yeah!
Expensive. And
hell
walking
yeah!
out of JB Hi-Fi with the biggest bag,
and then rushing back in because you're like, I forgot snipper clips.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's a launch game, and I think then it'll be a 3D Mario later in the year, because also there's those two that we know about. Then there's thinking about like a lot of their other roster of games have kind of just recently had stuff come out, so there won't be a Zelda for a while, you would imagine. They've just put out a new Mario Party, you know, a lot of these things that they kind of lean on. And so I'm kind of hoping that, and maybe this can veer us into talking about something that Ben and I have been playing this week. You know, maybe there's a Donkey Kong that's been on the boil for a long time, because they have not done anything new with that bastard for such a long time.
And,
you know, maybe
and that Star Fox racing game that was rumoured by Nate the Hate 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they never even made a Star Fox game for the Switch. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they've had kind of sitting there dormant, so maybe this is where they start to fill in the gaps with some of that stuff.
The Kirby game is a lock. We're definitely getting a Kirby game.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because what was the last new one of them? It was that 3D one, right?
Forgotten
the
Land,
mouth,
yeah.
the mouthful
two
mode
remakes since then, and a few mini games.
Yeah. Kirby's got to be in there because it's just like a guaranteed seller for younger kids and 40-year-old men.
Thanks for the shout out.
Metroid Prime 4 is still slated to come out at some point, right?
I mean, that'll be in that Switch 2 trailer as being like beefed up on the Switch 2, right? Sure.
You have to imagine it's ages away, though. Like, I just think that game just needs as much time to cook as possible.
Yeah. So, because I was thinking this while I was playing Donkey Kong this week. So, I can never keep up with who's making Metroid Prime 4 at this point. Are Retro back on it?
Retro back on it.
Because they were doing it and then they left and then they came back? Because wasn't Bandai Namco was working on it at one point?
Yeah, and the version that they saw of that game, Nintendo were like, this sucks, and then begs Retro to do it again.
Come back. Okay, right. Because that was the big question for a while was, well, what are they working on? And there was that rumor that it was that
there's like a
game.
huge gap where they remade Tropical Freeze. I don't think that they made the Donkey Kong Returns remaster, but I could be wrong.
No, I don't. I think they've got like a few studios that handle the like ports for them. Like the people who made Zelda Echoes of Wisdom were a team that would just do Grezzo would just do like the ports and the remasters and stuff. So yeah, we've been playing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
Yes.
One of the Switch One's swan songs.
Yeah. This was a Wii game. This came out in 2010, and I didn't play it at the time. I did have a Wii, but I don't know. I didn't have every game. Had you played it originally, Tommy, and did you play it, Levins?
Yeah, I played this entirety in 2-player mode with my friend John Valenzuela when it came out on Wii. Loved it. Really, really fun game, especially the levels where you're like on a rocket and all you can do is just push one button to make yourself go up a bit.
And it makes you kind of go through these little gaps that are like that. And if you like nudge a rock, you've got one... You've got one bit of health and you die immediately. Yeah.
I was going to say, was this pre like Jetpack Joyride? I guess it would have been around the same time, right?
Yeah, I think around the same time, taking influence from it in the best way, I think.
Yeah, I played this at the time. I didn't finish it, but this was kind of like really around the time I started reconnecting with Nintendo. Like I remember this might have been one of the earliest Nintendo Directs, or certainly one of the earliest ones that I was kind of tapped into.
Right.
And I remember seeing them announce this and just thinking like, this is kind of around the era where they really started getting back into like reaching into the catalog and being like, hey, we're going to do like a new version of this game that we haven't sort of done anything with for a long time, and thinking like, well, that's so cool that they're doing a new one of these with like... Yeah,
that was the E3 where they announced this. They announced the GoldenEye remaster, and they announced a new NBA Jam. And I was like, oh, wow, they're doing it. It felt really good watching that.
Yeah, right.
Was that when they put out like, the gold Wii remote? Yeah.
Gold Wiimote.
Yeah.
But it's kind of... I mean, it's obviously such a like gap filler for them in terms of, hey, 8th year of this console, what can we shovel out? Like, it's crazy that it's coming out so late into the Switch when they re-released Tropical Freeze almost immediately. And then there's that annoying part of you where you're like, I kind of want the whole catalogue of a series to be accessible in the one place. Kind of like how they've now got... Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3 are on the Switch, but if you want to play one remastered, you got to go to the 3DS. Is so annoying. Like, and they announced that post the Switch being announced. I think they ported Luigi's Mansion 1 to the 3DS.
Yeah, there was that weird year where they kept giving us 3DS games, like the precursor to Metroid Dread.
Right.
On that note, I reckon, just to go back to the earlier conversation, I reckn we get a sequel to Metroid Dread before Metroid Prime 4 comes out.
Oh, huge. Okay.
Yeah,
a lot of big predictions coming out.
I'm always wrong, as we've all already.
Industry whispers are telling you that Metroid Dread 2 is going to come out this year. But yeah, like it's kind of crazy that they didn't put this out, closer to the remaster of Tropical Freeze. But it is cool to have it now in a form that is, because there's a re-release of it on the 3DS, which is fine, but it's such a nice looking game, and having it on that smaller screen, and it's very pixely, it doesn't really do it justice. And so I probably got I guess halfway through it back in the day, but how are you finding it coming to it completely fresh in 2025?
I'm loving it. It doesn't feel like a game from 15 years ago, like at all. I did play Tropical Freeze when it was re-released, so that is itself a while back now, but I loved that game as well. I thought it was so creative. It was really up there for me and I love 2D platformers as well, specifically, so like getting one that was so interesting and had so much care and attention to detail, and like was really reminiscent of stuff like Rayman. Was it Legends is the last one they made?
Origins and Legends,
Yeah. I felt... Yeah, it had like that level of like, we just fucking love 2D platforming, so we're going to make it as creative as possible.
Yeah.
And loved it. And I mean, this is obviously, like, you can tell it's not as advanced. They're not throwing as much at the wall with this one, but it's still really, really fun. The controls feel great to play this game. I love having Diddy Kong in there as your little secondary mate. Little jetpack guy doing a hover. It's I probably only like had a couple of sittings playing it, but I think halfway through. I think there's eight worlds. I'm somewhere in the fourth, but it's just so fun. It's just so creative, so fluid, and man, the music's fucking sick. Like I just like everything about it.
You're totally right. It doesn't feel. It really doesn't feel like a 15-year-old game. I mean, even graphically, like there are some cutscenes where you look at it and you go, oh, okay, that's a little. But I mean, obviously, like the design and the art direction, like a lot of Nintendo stuff, does so much of the heavy lifting that you don't really feel like you're playing an old, two generation ago game. They've done like a little bit to boost up the lighting and some of the water effects and stuff, but generally it's a really bare bones just HD upscaling. They haven't gone and like redone it, or there's like some extra stuff that was in the 3DS version is in here as well, but they haven't added anything new on top of that, or given it too much of a polish.
I'm only really disappointed that they didn't add Funky Kong to this game.
Yeah,
because that was like the big thing with Tropical Freeze, and it became a meme where they were like, new funky mode added.
Yeah.
And you could just play, it was like slightly easier. You play as Funky Kong, who was just so much fun to play as because he didn't fall into pits. He had his little surfboard that would save him from falling. Or
spikes, yeah.
And he also was just like a righteous dude at rules playing as Funky Kong.
That was really good. I think, wasn't his like moveset, it was kind of like a combination of like all of, because you have Dixie Kong and Cranky Kong in that, and his surfboard gives him like a combination of all of their little abilities.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess when you're like, right at the end of the console's lifespan and all resources are being poured into new software for that, it's like, nah, we're not adding shit into this. Just
the one guy who's doing this remake is like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
But it does still have that thing where, and like I guess every Nintendo game has had this for the past 15 plus years, where if you fuck up enough times, you'll get to play through the level as like, what is it in this? Like Super
I think it's
Kong
Super Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're really patronizing. It's the little pig, isn't it? He comes up and he's like, man, you suck shit at this.
You need all the help you can get.
Do you want a fucking hand? Because you seem to be a little fucking bitch.
We're activating baby mode. Just thank us later.
Do you want me to do this while you go and clean the poo-poo out of your pants? Because you seem to be a stupid little fucking baby.
Why don't I just text your friends that you finished this game? You don't even need to.
Do you have like an older brother that can like come in and take the controller? I mean, I can do it, but that's pretty fucking sad if the game has to play itself for you. Do you want to like...
Which I'd be surprised if that... Like it's not like Kirby easy, but it's not a super difficult game.
Hey.
They get hard at the end.
But I've kind of been breezing through it, which is fine, because it's like I've had a good solid couple of sessions. It's not like I'm half an hour into the game and I've like clocked 4 worlds. And it has bits, and I looked up some older reviews, like from back when it came out, and a lot of people were frustrated with it. Like a lot of the reviews were like, it's good, it's an 8 out of 10, which means, a 3 out of whatever. Like that's a low-ish score for a Nintendo game. But it was like, there's these levels that I just have to try over and over and over again. They're so frustrating, and it's like, I mean, that's a game.
Yeah.
There's got to be hard
That's what the
bits.
minecart levels in Donkey Kong Country always were. Like, it's just like these pitfalls that suddenly you see and you're like, oh, I've got to remember that for next time.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about it. It's like a different team making it, but that's what was really cool about it when it came out, was like, oh, they totally get what is, there's nothing worse than a franchise coming back and different people doing it, and it's like, you've totally missed the point of what was enjoyable about this. Like, the minecart level should be really, really punishing. And there's there's little branching paths on the map where you can buy a key from Cranky's shop to open it up and get like a little extra 1 or 2 levels in the map, and they're often like a bit more challenging. Like they're a bit more for like, okay, you're pretty tapped into this game. Like you want to wring every little bit out of it, and you want that bit of extra challenge. But
there's an extra challenging level that unlocks it once you get the Kong letters in each level, right? I remember that those being super challenging.
And there's heaps of stuff to fight. There's all that kind of stuff if you want to go back and be completionist. There's like...
Well, that's why I would never, like... I always stick up for Nintendo platformers. It's like, yeah, anyone can finish most of these levels pretty easily, but getting all those collectibles and then getting rewarded for collecting those collectibles, that's what the challenge is.
Right. Which
I mean, this has
like... That's the same sort of issue I bumped up against with Odyssey, was like, I wasn't... Because I'd pretty much had a big... sort of gap between my Nintendo gaming. Like, I loved it when I was a child, and I played all the 2D platformers, you know, and really, really enjoyed them, and didn't play Super Mario 64, didn't play Sunshine, maybe played Galaxy and wasn't that into it. So Odyssey came out, and I was like, man, this is so easy. I finished this in like 5.5 hours. But yeah, you're right. There was so much extra content in that, and it was all a bit more difficult and more enjoyable, you know, from my perspective because of that. And yeah, it's this is just how Nintendo does it, and I understand that now.
Yeah, I feel like they've got their like. I saw something ages ago about like their hierarchy of difficulty, where you've got like Metroid is up the top, and then there's like the Donkey Kong platformers are meant to be like the bit more challenging, and then down the lower, and then in the mid tier you've got Mario, and then on the lower end you've got like Yoshi and Kirby. Like they're kind of, and they're all essentially, when they're in 2D mode, a lot of the same kind of stuff. But the presentation and the world and everything, like I mean, just playing this, I was like, man, it's been such a long time since we've had some new Donkey Kong content that. Yeah, I really hope that that's what they've got up their sleeve. I'd love a new take on a 3D one. I feel like Donkey Kong 64 kind of got a bit of a bad rap just because people were so that style of 3D platformer. It came along late enough at the point where people were kind of a bit over it, and they probably pushed it too far with the amount of shit that you had to find in every level and all this stuff, like giving Donkey Kong a gun. It felt a little... That's right. It felt a little weird.
There are so many collectibles that you can only collect as certain characters. That's
you have
to come
and all
back
these other Kongs coming. It felt a little bit... It felt like it veered a little bit away from like the charm of the Donkey Kong Country games, but
you did get the DK rap though.
Exactly, it had the DK rap. I'd be totally up for seeing some kind of a new. If it's 2D, fine, but a 3D version of it would be cool. I still would love it to be. This is what I really thought. My one disappointment of Mario Odyssey was in the early stuff we saw about like New Donk City. And like that Pauline character that is in the original Donkey Kong game, I thought, this will be cool. Like it'll be like there'll be this big Donkey Kong crossover, and there is that like 8-bit sort of level that you do that mimics the original Donkey Kong. But I really thought that meant that there was going to be like those characters actually in it, and there would be like the Mario games tend to just kind of exist with Mario just by himself without.
You're lucky if you can get Luigi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd love it to be a bit more of a thing of like, Donkey Kong gets fed in and Wario shows up, and it would be cool to see like a Yeah, because
as much as I loved Donkey Kong Country Returns, when they announced Tropical Freeze, I was like, I guess. And then I bought it, played like 2 levels of it. I think this speaks more about how into the Wii U I was, which was not very much, that I didn't really continue on with Tropical Freeze. And then so when they announced it for Switch, I was like, oh, good, now I'll get to give it a proper chance. And I absolutely demolished that game. Like 100% did it. So good. But people go on and on about how long it's been since we got a brand new Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze both came out in 2014. But Tropical Freeze came out first in February. So it's been since February 2014 since we got a brand new Donkey Kong game. So I agree. We need more Monkey.
We need a redesign. That's why people are frothing over that little bit of him in the Mario Kart trailer where he looks different. It's the first new Donkey Kong content we've had in such a long time.
But they've opened a theme park, and he's a main character in the movie.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. We were saying this the other night, me and Ben. I was like, yeah, man, I really hope they're giving us a new Donkey Kong on the Switch too. And then we were talking about the theme park. Like, it would genuinely be so funny if they open a theme park and then never bring out a new game.
Yeah. It's more of a memorial to the character that we're putting to rest.
What? We built the fucking thing for real. You want a video game? Get
Right.
fucked. Go to the theme park. That's better than the game. You're in it.
You can kiss him.
Go to a fucking zoo, cunt. No, surely. I mean, it has become harder to predict Nintendo's rationale, but surely if they've made an entire section of the theme park, there's got to be some kind of ongoing investment in this character. They understand people like him, clearly, and if it's been over 10 years since an original game, the timing is it's all set up for a Switch 2 exclusive DK, and I'm down for it. I really do like these games a lot. I don't think I ever actually played Donkey Kong 64. Like, I might have emulated it to see what it was like or something, but I do love these, and I prefer 2D platformers to 3D. I'd love, because the way I also was going to say with Donkey Kong Country Returns, the way that they do a lot of the switching between foreground and background, and like a lot of that is carried into Tropical Freeze as well. It just is really dynamic and fun, and it's a fun way to present a 2D platformer. And I trust that I guess we don't know who would develop it specifically, but they would do a nice, creative, fun, interesting 2D platformer. It
is strange that they never smashed one out for the Switch. It's kind or at least get like another team to do it. It's kind of odd. I guess maybe it speaks to like there are probably a few franchises that this is true for, where the last time they brought a new one out was on the Wii U, and then as a result, it sold really badly, and so they just don't have a very good metric for, is this worth investing in? Are these games going to sell if we put a new one out? Like,
Star Fox is definitely in that category, but they also made the worst Star Fox game.
Yeah, I never played it, but I kind of want to. I'm kind of fascinated by it because, again, like, you'd think that is a bit of an easy sell. You fly a little spaceship around and you shoot stuff. It's kind of crazy that they never. They obviously couldn't port that one across because it used the Wii U, the gamepad so extensively. But it's strange that they never tried to do anything with that on the Switch.
Because that last one was like an on rails shooter, right?
It's very strange because it's like multiple different vehicles that you have to control. Each of them control differently, and you're basically having to look at the screen and at the gamepad at the same time because different things control from it. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, fuck.
It's one of those things like
game.
a lot of gamepad stuff. It's a cool idea when when you hear about it, you think, oh yeah, you could be like in a cockpit and you've got all the controls on a thing in front of you. But then a lot of times what that meant was, I've got this nice TV that's really big where everything looks really good, and then I'm spending most of my time staring at this grainy little washed out thing in front of me. Like, what,
Still got mine.
Oh yes. Yep.
That's a museum piece at this point.
Oh yeah. So Lev, what have you been playing during the week? You were messaging me during the week saying that you'd gone in on Billionaire, which we talked about last week, I think.
So I've been balling out on many indie games that came out last year, because tomorrow is the annual recording of my indie game podcast, All the Small Games, that I record with John Valenzuela. We used to be a weekly podcast, but then we decided, fuck that. Let's just do it once a year. And so every year for the past 4 now, we just hang out and drink a bunch of beers and record for like 6 hours, where we do our favorite indie games that came out the previous year. The previous years we've done our top 10s. We're upping it this year to top 15. It's going to be a long day of recording.
Wow, you really want to drink a lot of beer. This is real end of school holidays. Get me in with a slab. Let's go off.
Wait. I'm so excited.
No, we're in prime time for indie games. Like, there has been so much sick stuff in the past 12 months. Like, when we recorded our 2025 preview, Tommy, like, there's a lot of AAA stuff that's been announced, but it was like, we always end up having half our top 10 lists at the end of the year be these fantastic indie games that we don't know anything about.
And that's the best thing about them is that, there's that thing of, there's so much expectation now with any AAA stuff because they're announced so far in advance and you get drip fed all this stuff and like, the indie games have pivoted into the part of gaming that feel like when you're a kid and you would just like be in the shop and like the look of the box and go like, yeah, cool. Like, it just like sneaks up on you. You have like no preconception going in. But
I love being able to drop $3 in a game that you can finish in an hour.
Yeah,
it's just quality the whole way through. And if anything, you're like, wow, I want to play that immediately again because you don't get things like that very often. I think last year was one of the best years for indie games ever. The fact that there were like at least 3 indie games that completely cracked the mainstream in Balatro, Animal Well, and UFO 50.
And Super Dazzler.
What were you going to say? Super Dazzler.
No, it's just I was just wondering if there are any like games made by like a small team, like maybe just like literally 2 people.
I can think of some, but they weren't good.
Of course, Super Dazzler Land. If we were doing a top 16 this year, it's going to be in that list.
We were number. I think we were number. I can't remember where we came. We were maybe like number 15 of Itch.io's top games of the year.
Oh, that's
we got
awesome.
shouted out on their little like year-end video.
Yeah,
that's unreal. So I thought I would pick 3 games that you guys would like. That may not have been on your radar or anyone's listening's radar. They're very different and totally not the kind of game. Well, at least one of them is not the kind of game that you'd associate with my tastes. So I'll start with that. Ben, you would fucking love a game called Thronefall. Which is like a simplified real-time strategy game where you are a knight trying to defend your kingdom against waves and waves of attacks. It is so simple to understand, to control. You're basically just moving around and holding down the A button when you need to like give yourself upgrades. So it's like semi-tower defense, but then you're also navigating it yourself on your horse and leading troops to attack all the invading forces, and they're so creative. You do like waves and waves of them. Like each time you take on a new kingdom, there'll be like 14 knights that you need to endure, and so it starts quite easy, and then you have to decide what to put money into. Are you going to build up the defenses? Are you going to go all in on creating like forces that can attack, or are you going to like actually build things that will generate you more money so you can build better stuff as you go on, and maybe you can take on more of the waves by yourself? It's really, really cool. There's so many different ways you can go about it. There's all these different weapons that you can unlock, so it becomes a vastly different game where you're having to time your attacks based on what you choose. And they have these like curses that you can put on yourself, so it'll make the enemies 10 times stronger, but killing them gets you 10 times more coins.
Ooh, shit.
And so
this sounds fantastic.
And the amount of different achievements linked to each kingdom, you just like, okay, I'm going to go back and do it. It can be extremely bite-sized. You can play it in like 5-minute intervals if you like, or you can just go hog wild and smash it. The last wave of each kingdom is like a full-on monster attack. And so if you've like bungled your defenses, it's just going to break through it, and the game is over once your like main castle is destroyed.
Right.
So goddamn good. It's on sale at the moment on Steam. Steam Deck has become my like main console now.
Hell yeah.
I'm officially, this is the first year I think in my life that a Nintendo console hasn't been my most played console. The Steam Deck I love that, like, it's the easiest place to publish something. So I love that being first, playing all these early access indies that aren't even finished yet.
Yeah.
Nintendo would never let these things through.
Yeah, that looks. I just looked it up. The style of it looks great. The
the yellows and purples in the color. It's great. Totally,
this looks great.
Killer game.
$14 Australian at the moment. I'm literally buying it as we speak.
Nice.
I love that anytime you look up a game, a new game, specifically, these small indies and stuff, it's like one of the first results you'll get will be a video going, Thronefall, is it worth it? I like the clickbait, the clickbait headline title of, is it worth my money? Should you buy it?
Yeah. Yes, it's good. Well, that is you're right. That being the common ubiquitous when it's like, that is relative based on how much disposable income
what you
you
want
have.
one person to tell you whether it's worth you buying. Like, it's so dumb.
This looks great, Lev. Thank you for the recommendation.
Anytime. Right now. Let's get another one. So you mentioned that you prefer 2D platformers over 3D, and Tommy, I know you love them too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a game that I haven't heard anyone talk about that came out in December last year. It's called Symphonia. And in this game, you play as like a little bird who plays the violin, and it's pure platforming. There's no combat. It's like, precision platforming. You have all these cool abilities that use your violin's bow, and you are traveling through this beautiful hand-painted world to try and find the other members of your orchestra.
Cool.
And there's there's a lot of like music timing. You're like jumping on drums that affect the soundtrack to what you're playing.
Sick.
And heaps of abilities that you unlock. A lot of like secrets that you've got to go back to earlier levels to go try and find. Really, really fun. Developed by a Japanese studio called I think Sunny Peak.
Sunny Peak, yeah.
And it looks gorgeous, has a great soundtrack, and is super fun to play. I haven't quite finished it yet, but the first few levels that I've played, they're massive, and I've found like half of the orchestra. Really, really fun. Highly recommend.
Yeah, this looks great. This looks really nice.
The art style. I mean, it's given me Ori.
Yeah, it's definitely
vibes.
Ori vibes for sure.
Yeah,
it's so crazy when you stumble across these games, and it's kind of what's obviously nice about indie games, but can also be really frustrating where you're just like, how have I not heard anything more about you know what I mean? Like, even when you go on the page and it'll have like a lot of good reviews and there will be some press stuff, but you're like, man, more people should be talking about this game.
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
why
good
whenever I find a really good one, I love telling you, Tommy, because then you generally play it and talk about it here. Like Mini Shoot Adventures was one this year.
Yep.
Right.
Did you get into Fallen Leaf? Did you play that one?
No, I didn't in the end.
Love Fallen Leaf. If anyone's looking for like a Mega Man, Mario 3, pixel art, excellent platformer, that's super high up on my list.
Yeah, cool.
But last one here, and this is for the real sickos, so the two of you and all your listeners, I presume.
Yes.
Do you remember a game that came out many years ago? It was like one of the first like iPhone games that people were like, oh, this is actually the best. And it was called Game Dev Story.
Oh, yeah.
Made by a company called Kairosoft, who basically make a ton of sim games where it's, like Hot Springs Story, where you manage a hot springs, and Mega Mall Story, and it's all about you managing these different things. They did their first ever licensed game last year, and it is a character that I know you love, Tommy, that is Doraemon.
Oh, yeah.
And if any Japanese people are listening, yes, I'm aware that it's pronounced Doraemon. It just is extremely hard to enunciate it like that in normal conversation.
To say it without sounding like you're taking the piss.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Right.
as you're pulling the samurai sword off the wall.
Bowing. Doraemon Dorayaki Shop Story came out midway through last year, and it is by far the biggest game that Kairosoft have ever made. In it, you, Doraemon and his pals, you're running a dorayaki shop, a Japanese sweets shop, and you basically have to build up this enormous shop, and to do that, you have to find dishes that all the people in your town want to eat, and then go on quests to find ingredients, bring those ingredients back to your kitchen, and then you have to try and make the best version of it possible. You then like enter yourself in competitions. There's like 4 different currencies that you're always trying to like add to as you play the game. And as a big fan of manga, so Doraemon was made by 2 guys who call themselves like Fujiko Fumio, something like that, and they wrote tons of books together. And as you go on these adventures trying to find ingredients, you also find pages of manga, and those pages act as portals to all the different worlds that the creator created that wasn't Doraemon.
Oh,
and so you have hundreds of characters in this game from other obscure Japanese manga, and they all like different Japanese sweets, and they all have different mission requirements. But this is like comes with the caveat of this will absolutely fucking ruin your life for a week.
Yeah, sick.
It got to the point where I was like, oh, I can't piecemeal this. I can't control myself when I play this. And instead of being like responsible and deleting it, I said, okay, I guess the only choice for me now is to not do anything for the next day until I fully completed this game.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
And I didn't sleep. I just did nothing. I just ignored my family until it was
Great.
done.
Great.
I'm allowed to do that once a year, and that was the game that.
That was the game you used it on.
Yeah.
Doraemon's Sweet Shop.
Great shit. Made me realize how good the Kairosoft games are.
Yeah,
Right.
this sounds cool, but you know, this makes me feel like this is the sort of game that would be inside one of the Yakuza games.
Yes.
Fuck, so true. It's actually on Switch. I played it on phone, which I think is the only sane place to play a Kairosoft game. But you can play this one on Switch and Steam as well.
Okay.
Should you feel so inclined. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
very cool.
That's
Man, this
probably the
looks
good way of limiting yourself is to get it on the Switch, because if it's on your phone, it's with you everywhere.
Exactly,
But if
yeah.
you have it on the Switch, then you can be like, hey, I'm going away for the weekend, and this fucking goddamn game is not coming with me. But then you get to where you're staying at the Airbnb, and you open a cupboard, and the Switch is just there, waiting for you with this game on the
Make the
screen.
sweets. Make the sweets, Levins.
Well, yeah, they all sound great. Three
Yeah.
great recommendations that are all very different flavors. Are
Yeah.
these, without spoiling the app, are any of these cracking your top 15?
At least two of them, for sure.
Okay.
Thronefall is by far my favorite of those three. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
definitely
Sweet.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
We'll be recording tomorrow. I imagine the episode will be up this weekend. So if you need up to if not more than 6 hours of indie game chat, you
Drunk
know where to
men.
go.
Yes, we'll give that a share on Insta and Twitter if people are still using, well, X, I guess. But all the small games.
Yeah.
I'll
you
put it
just
on
wanna
Red
look it up
Note.
now and sub.
Well, that's going to do us for another week. Thank you, Levins, for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nintendo, for finally announcing the Switch 2.
Yep.
April the 2nd. Can't wait. Looking forward to seeing what the future holds.
What if we should start the rumor that they are actually going to announce something on February the 4th as well?
Yeah.
I reckon that'd be an easy one to get up and rolling. I'll get
That
Nate
would
on
be
the call.
cool. I mean, maybe this is them. You know, they realize when they wait too long,
See,
the
Tommy already
hype
thinks it's
train-
happening.
the hype train gets out of control. But if they went in order to get around that, they announce a date way in the future, and then they just a month later they're like, no, we were writing it the other way.
Yeah.
It's Feb 4.
Here's a 5-minute
What did you-
video with
What
a
did you
bunch
think?
of
we meant?
games.
Yeah.
We're not stupid.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it there for another week. Get onto Patreon if you would like to support the show. Check out our new show that we're doing on this same feed every week for the next little while. With Jen Fricker, we're going to be recapping Severance Season 2, talking about new release movies and all that kind of stuff.
You guys going to watch Den of Thieves too?
I don't imagine so.
Bro, it's so good. It's the sickest movie. You guys need to get on the big Nick train.
Yeah, a friend of the show, Timothy Clark, has been spruiking Den of Thieves and Den of Thieves 2 to me as well. So I've still not seen the first. So
If it's on Netflix, I think it's on every Australian streaming service. They really want you to join the den, Ben.
All right, I'm getting in the den.
Den of Thieves.
Thanks very much for joining us. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals...